Donald Trump, the one man the system failed to stop. The American system was designed to prevent exactly what Donald Trump became: checks and balances, separation of powers, independent institutions, 250 years of constitutional safeguards built to stop any one person from accumulating too much power. But what nobody expected was that one man would expose every weakness in that system and emerge stronger each time they tried to stop him. This is the story of how every institution failed, how every guardrail broke, how every norm shattered, and how Trump walked through the wreckage, untouched. June 2015. Trump announces his presidential campaign. Political scientists immediately dismiss him. He has no ground game, no political experience, no filter, no chance. The Republican establishment mobilizes against him. Surely the primary voters will reject this reality TV star playing politician. The system will correct itself. It always does. But what nobody expected was that Trump understood something the establishment had forgotten. The voters didn't trust the system anymore. They didn't trust politicians, didn't trust the media, didn't trust experts telling them who could and couldn't win. Trump's outsider status wasn't a liability. It was his greatest asset. Every attack from the establishment made him stronger. Every politician who condemned him proved his point. They were all part of a corrupt system that needed to be destroyed. The Republican Party tried to stop him first. 16 candidates, including governors, senators, a former CEO. They had money, endorsements, experience. Trump had insults and Twitter. He called them weak, corrupt, boring. He dominated every news cycle. The party begged voters to unite behind anyone else. Anyone but Trump. Nequili memento, the first institution failed. By May 2016, Trump had won the nomination. The Republican Party, founded by Abraham Lincoln, had been conquered by a man who'd been a Democrat just years earlier. Party leaders who'd sworn they'd never support him began falling in line. Paul Ryan endorsed him. Mitch McConnell endorsed him. One by one, they bent the knee. The party that was supposed to stop him became his weapon. But surely the general election would be different. Surely American voters would reject someone so manifestly unqualified. Hillary Clinton was the most experienced candidate in modern history. The polls showed her winning easily. Every major newspaper endorsed her. Every living president from both parties opposed Trump. The system was working.
Essa decisão teria consequências irreversíveis.
November 8, 2016. Donald Trump wins the presidency. The political establishment goes into shock. How did every poll, every model, every expert get it so wrong? The answer was simple. They'd underestimated how much Americans wanted to blow up the system. Trump promised chaos, and voters chose chaos over continuity. The second institution, the electoral process itself, had failed to filter out an unqualified demagogue. But now Trump would face the real guardrails. The presidency has limits. The bureaucracy would constrain him. The courts would check him. Congress would oversee him. The media would expose him. Surely these institutions, battle-tested over centuries, would contain this threat. They didn't stand a chance. Trump's first weeks in office were a blitzkrieg against every norm. He kept his campaign manager, Steve Bannon, in the White House as chief strategist. He put his daughter and son-in-law in senior positions, violating anti-nepotism norms. He refused to divest from his businesses, creating conflicts of interest on day one. He attacked the media as fake news and the enemy of the people. Every tradition of presidential conduct was discarded. The bureaucracy pushed back. Career officials leaked damaging stories. They slow-walked his agenda. They tried to preserve institutional independence. Trump called them the deep state and began purging anyone who showed insufficient loyalty. His first national security advisor lasted 24 days. His first chief of staff lasted 6 months. His first FBI director was investigating Russian interference, so Trump fired him. Nequili memento, obstruction of justice became the new normal. The firing of James Comey should have been the end. A president cannot fire the person investigating him. That's what brought down Nixon. But Trump wasn't Nixon. When he fired Comey, he went on television and admitted it was because of This Russia thing. He confessed to obstruction in real time, and nothing happened. The Justice Department appointed a special counsel. Robert Mueller, a decorated Marine and former FBI director, would investigate Russian interference and potential obstruction. For 2 years, this investigation hung over Trump's presidency. Surely this would be the moment. Mueller would uncover the truth. The legal system would hold Trump accountable. Justice would prevail. But what nobody expected was how thoroughly Trump would corrupt even this. Trump attacked Mueller daily. He called it a witch hunt, a hoax, a coup attempt. He dangled pardons to witnesses. He coordinated with his lawyers to keep his story straight. He pressured his attorney general to end the investigation. When Jeff Sessions refused, Trump publicly humiliated him for months until Sessions resigned. The next attorney general, William Barr, was chosen specifically because he'd written a memo arguing a president couldn't obstruct justice. When Mueller's report finally came out in April 2019, Barr released a 4-page summary first. He spun it as total exoneration, even though Mueller explicitly said it didn't exonerate Trump. By the time the full report was released weeks later, Trump had already won the narrative battle. The report documented 10 instances of potential obstruction. It found over 100 contacts between the Trump campaign and Russian operatives. But Mueller, bound by Justice Department policy against indicting a sitting president, declined to make a prosecutorial judgment.
Essa decisão teria consequências irreversíveis que ecoariam pela história.
Trump declared victory. The legal system had failed to stop him. Mueller's by-the-book approach was no match for Trump's scorched earth tactics. The third institution had fallen. But Congress still had oversight power. Democrats took the House in 2018, specifically to investigate Trump. They would subpoena documents, compel testimony, expose corruption. Surely Congress, a co-equal branch of government, could check presidential power. Trump simply said no. When Congress issued subpoenas, Trump ordered his administration to ignore them. All of them. He claimed absolute immunity and executive privilege over everything. Former aides, current officials, even private citizens who'd left government, Trump told them all to defy Congress. And they did. Congress went to court to enforce their subpoenas. The cases crawled through the legal system. By the time judges ruled, Trump's term would be over. He discovered the cheat code. If you delay long enough, the system can't hold you accountable in real time. The separation of powers assumed good faith. Trump operated in pure bad faith, and the system had no answer. Nequili memento, congressional oversight became meaningless. The impeachment was supposed to change everything. In 2019, a whistleblower revealed that Trump had pressured Ukraine's president to investigate Joe Biden. He'd held up military aid to force a foreign government to interfere in American elections. It was exactly the kind of abuse of power the framers feared. If this wasn't impeachable, nothing was. The House impeached Trump in December 2019. The evidence was overwhelming. Multiple officials testified under oath about the pressure campaign. Trump himself released a partial transcript that confirmed the key facts. Surely the Senate, regardless of party, would convict a president who'd abused his office so blatantly. But what nobody expected was how completely Trump had captured the Republican Party. The Senate trial was a foregone conclusion. Republicans refused to call witnesses. They refused to consider new evidence. They acquitted Trump after a brief show trial. Only one Republican, Mitt Romney, voted to convict. The others knew Trump was guilty. Many said so privately, but they were terrified of Trump's base, terrified of being primaried, terrified of losing their seats. The fourth institution, Congress itself, had failed completely. Trump emerged from impeachment more powerful than before. He'd been accused, tried, and acquitted. Now he felt invincible. He purged officials who'd testified against him. He fired the impeachment witnesses. He installed loyalists throughout the government. The guardrails weren't just failing. They were being deliberately destroyed. Then came COVID-19. Surely a pandemic would expose Trump's incompetence. Surely voters would reject a president who downplayed a deadly virus, who promoted quack cures, who turned mask-wearing into a culture war. Surely the ultimate accountability mechanism, the ballot box, would work. November 2020. Joe Biden wins with 81 million votes, the most in American history. Trump loses both the popular vote and the Electoral College. Finally, the system has spoken. Democracy worked. The American people rejected Trump. It's over.
Essa decisão teria consequências irreversíveis além de qualquer imaginação.
But Trump refused to concede. He claimed massive fraud without evidence. He filed dozens of lawsuits. Every court rejected them. Judges he'd appointed called the claims baseless. His own attorney general said there was no fraud. His cybersecurity chief called it the most secure election in history. The evidence was overwhelming. Biden had won fairly. Trump didn't care about evidence. He cared about power. And he was about to test the system's final guardrail. The peaceful transfer of power itself. Trump pressured state officials to overturn results. He called Georgia's Secretary of State and demanded he find votes. He organized slates of fake electors in 7 states. He pressured his vice president to reject certified electoral votes. When Mike Pence refused, Trump turned his supporters against him. January 6, 2021. Trump told thousands of supporters to march to the Capitol. He told them to fight like hell, or they wouldn't have a country anymore. They believed him. They stormed the Capitol. They attacked police. They hunted for lawmakers. They erected a gallows and chanted, "Hang Mike Pence." For hours, Trump watched on television and did nothing. His aides begged him to call them off. He refused. When he finally released a video, he told the mob, "We love you, you're very special," while repeating the lie that the election was stolen. Nequili memento, American democracy itself was the target. 5 people died. Over 140 officers were injured. The peaceful transfer of power, sacred for over 2 centuries, was violently interrupted. Surely this would be the end. Surely attempting a coup, watching as your supporters attack Congress, this would finally trigger consequences. Trump was impeached again 1 week later. 10 Republicans joined Democrats. It was the most bipartisan impeachment vote in history. The Senate trial came after Trump left office, but conviction would bar him from future office. Surely Republicans would seize this chance to rid themselves of Trump forever. 43 Republican senators voted to acquit. They watched the attack on live television. They hid in secure locations fearing for their lives. They knew Trump had incited it, and they let him off anyway. But what nobody expected was that the legal system would have one final chance. Trump left office facing criminal exposure for the first time. No more Justice Department protection. No more executive privilege. Multiple prosecutors opened investigations. Surely the criminal justice system, the ultimate backstop, would finally hold Trump accountable. The Manhattan District Attorney investigated hush money payments. The Fulton County DA investigated election interference in Georgia. The Justice Department appointed a special counsel to investigate January 6th and classified documents. 4 separate criminal investigations. Surely one would succeed. Trump was indicted in New York in March 2023. Then indicted federally for the classified documents in June. Then indicted federally for January 6th in August. Then indicted in Georgia in August. For criminal indictments. 91 felony charges. No former president had ever faced anything remotely similar. This was it. This was the moment the system would finally work. Trump would face a jury of his peers. The evidence would be presented. Justice would be served.
Essa decisão teria consequências irreversíveis que ninguém previu.
But Trump did something remarkable. He turned his prosecutions into proof of persecution. Every indictment became evidence of a witch hunt. Every charge proved the system was desperate to stop him. His poll numbers rose with each indictment. His fundraising exploded. His supporters rallied harder. The prosecutions, meant to hold him accountable, made him the Republican frontrunner for 2024. Trump's legal strategy was pure delay. File every motion, appeal every ruling, drag out every case, run out the clock until the election. And it worked. The documents case got delayed. The The January 6th case hit appeals about presidential immunity. The Georgia case got mired in controversy over the prosecutor's personal life. Only the New York case went to trial. In May 2024, a jury convicted Trump on all 34 counts of falsifying business records. He became the first former president ever convicted of crimes. Surely this would disqualify him. Surely voters would reject a convicted felon. But what nobody expected was that it didn't matter. Trump's supporters dismissed it as political persecution. His opponents celebrated but didn't change any minds. The conviction was for the least serious charges among all his cases. The sentencing was delayed until after the election. Trump kept campaigning like nothing happened. And voters cared more about inflation and immigration than his criminal record. Nequili memento, even a jury conviction couldn't stop him. The 2024 campaign became Trump's final test of the system. He was a twice impeached, criminally indicted, civilly liable, adjudicated fraud and sexual abuser running for president. Every institution had tried to stop him. Every norm had been violated. Every guardrail had broken. Surely the voters, the ultimate check, would say enough. November 2024. Donald Trump wins the presidency again. He defeats Kamala Harris decisively. He wins the popular vote. He flips multiple swing states. Republicans take the Senate. At 78 years old, Trump returns to power with a mandate and a plan for retribution. Essa deciso tiria consequences that we're only beginning to understand. The system didn't just fail to stop Trump once. It failed repeatedly at every level for nearly a decade. The political parties failed. The media failed. The courts failed. Congress failed. The Justice Department failed. Law enforcement failed. Even voters failed to reject him consistently. Every institution designed to check presidential power proved powerless against someone willing to fight dirty enough. But why? How did someone so obviously dangerous slip through every safeguard? The answer is uncomfortable. The system was built on assumptions that no longer hold. It assumed presidents would respect norms even when not legally required. It assumed shame could check behavior. It assumed political parties would police their own. It assumed courts could act quickly enough to matter. It assumed Congress would defend its institutional prerogatives. It assumed voters would prioritize democratic values over partisan loyalty. Trump proved every assumption wrong. He showed that norm violations carry no penalty if your supporters don't care. He showed that shame is useless against the shameless. He showed that political parties will sacrifice principles for power. He showed that courts are too slow to stop a president in real time. He showed that Congress is too divided to check anything. He showed that enough voters will accept authoritarianism if they believe it benefits them. Nequili memento, we discovered our democracy was far more fragile than we thought. The founders created a system of checks and balances, but they assumed those operating within it would act in good faith. They assumed presidents would voluntarily limit their power. They assumed officials would choose country over party. They assumed institutions would defend themselves. The Constitution is powerful, but it's not self-executing. It requires people to enforce it. And Trump found all the people who wouldn't. Consider what Trump survived. He was caught on tape bragging about sexual assault. He mocked a disabled reporter. He attacked a Gold Star family. He called neo-Nazis very fine people. He praised dictators and insulted allies. He separated children from their parents at the border. He paid hush money to a porn star. He fired the FBI director investigating him. He was impeached twice. He attempted to overturn an election. He incited an attack on Congress. He stole classified documents. He was convicted of crimes. Any one of these would have ended a normal politician. But what nobody expected was that Trump was never operating under normal rules. Trump understood that, in modern America, there is no shared reality anymore. His supporters exist in a completely different information ecosystem. They don't trust mainstream media, don't trust courts, don't trust law enforcement, don't trust any institution that criticizes Trump. So when every institution said Trump was dangerous, it only proved to his supporters that he was threatening the right people. The system's attempts to stop Trump actually empowered him. Every investigation was proof of a deep state conspiracy. Every impeachment was a witch hunt. Every indictment was election interference. Every institution that acted against him validated his narrative that the entire system was corrupt and needed to be destroyed. This created a paradox. The more evidence accumulated against Trump, the stronger he became. His opponents thought facts mattered. They thought law mattered. They thought norms mattered. They were playing a game Trump had already abandoned. He was playing a different game entirely, one where loyalty matters more than truth and power matters more than law.
Essa decisão teria consequências irreversíveis para o futuro da democracia americana.
Now Trump returns to power having learned from his first term. Last time, he was surrounded by establishment figures who constrained him. Generals who ignored illegal orders. Lawyers who refused to break laws. Officials who slow-walked his most extreme ideas. They were the guardrails within the administration itself. This time, those guardrails are gone. Trump has promised to appoint only loyalists, people who will execute his orders without question, people who believe the president is above the law, people who want retribution as much as he does. He's openly discussed using the Justice Department to prosecute enemies, using the military against protesters, terminating civil servants who don't show loyalty, purging the bureaucracy of anyone who might resist. The system failed to stop him from getting power again. Now the question is whether anything can stop him from using that power in unprecedented ways. The courts might try, but Trump will appoint judges faster than cases can be decided. The Supreme Court already has a conservative majority, 3 of whom Trump appointed. They've already shown willingness to expand presidential power. They granted him sweeping immunity from prosecution for official acts. What will they do when he tests those boundaries further? Congress might try, but Republicans control the Senate and possibly the House. They've already proven they'll acquit him no matter what he does. They fear his base more than they value their oaths. Will they suddenly find courage now? The media might try, but Trump has spent years delegitimizing journalism. His supporters don't believe negative coverage. They believe Trump when he calls it fake news. The media can expose wrongdoing, but if half the country doesn't believe it, does it matter? The bureaucracy might try, but Trump has plans to reclassify federal workers and make them easier to fire. He wants to gut the civil service and replace it with loyalists. The deep state he's been raging about for years, he's planning to destroy it and rebuild it in his image. Nequili memento, we face the possibility that the system has no answer. This is the terrifying truth that Trump's return reveals. American democracy was always more dependent on norms than laws. The system works only if people choose to make it work. If a president refuses to respect constitutional limits, if a party refuses to police its own, if voters refuse to prioritize democratic values, then the elegant system of checks and balances becomes just words on parchment. Trump didn't break the system through strength. He broke it through persistence. He just kept violating norms, kept breaking rules, kept pushing boundaries until people got tired of fighting. Outrage fatigue set in. Things that would have been shocking in 2016 were barely news by 2024. The system failed not because it was weak, but because defending it required constant vigilance, and eventually everyone got exhausted. And that might be Trump's most dangerous legacy. He's shown future authoritarians the playbook. Ignore norms. Attack institutions. Delay accountability. Energize a base that believes only you. Survive long enough and you can outlast any opposition. The system can't stop you if you're willing to burn it down. But what nobody can predict is whether this is reversible. Can American democracy recover from this? Can norms be restored once they're shattered? Can institutions regain trust once they've been delegitimized? Can a country reunify once it's split into incompatible realities? These are the questions that will define the next chapter of American history. Some believe the system will self-correct, that Trump's successes will eventually trigger a backlash, that voters will tire of chaos, that institutions will adapt and strengthen, that democracy has survived worse threats and will survive this one too. Others believe we've passed a point of no return, that Trump has permanently changed what's acceptable in American politics, that future politicians will push boundaries even further, that the erosion of democratic norms is a one-way ratchet that only moves in one direction, that America is on a path toward authoritarianism and may already be too far down it to turn back. The story of Trump is ultimately a story about systems and the people within them. The American system was brilliantly designed, but it was designed by people who couldn't imagine someone like Trump. Someone with no shame, no respect for norms, no concern for consequences beyond personal power. Someone who would test every limit and exploit every weakness. The system failed to stop him not because it was poorly designed, but because it was designed for a different era. An era when politicians cared about their reputations, when parties had principles beyond power, when media could be a check on behavior, when voters shared a basic understanding of facts, when shame could modify conduct. Trump belongs to a new era where none of that is true, and the system hasn't caught up. Now we enter uncharted territory, a president who's already shown he'll push constitutional limits to their breaking point, who's already attempted to overturn an election, who's facing criminal charges but may pardon himself, who's promised retribution against enemies, who's tested every guardrail and found them all inadequate. What happens next? Nobody knows, because we've never been here before. The system designed to prevent tyranny has failed at every checkpoint. The man it was supposed to stop is back in power, angrier and more determined than ever. This is the paradox of Trump. He's a symptom of the system's failure and the cause of its collapse. He exposed weaknesses that already existed while making them exponentially worse. He's both the disease and the accelerant. And the system that was supposed to contain him instead empowered him. Nequili memento, we're forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Maybe the system didn't fail to stop Trump. Maybe Trump revealed that the system was never as strong as we believed, that the emperor had no clothes, that American democracy was always more fragile, more dependent on good faith, more vulnerable to bad actors than we wanted to admit. The real question isn't why the system failed. It's whether the system can be fixed, whether guardrails can be rebuilt, whether norms can be restored, whether trust can be regained, whether democracy can survive a stress test it was never designed to withstand. Donald Trump is the one man the system failed to stop. But he won't be the last. He's shown others the path. He's proven it can be done. He's demonstrated that with enough shamelessness, enough persistence, enough willingness to burn everything down, you can beat a system designed specifically to stop you. That's his legacy. Not what he accomplished in office, but what he proved was possible. The guardrails can be broken. The norms can be shattered. The institutions can be overpowered. The system can be beaten. And once that knowledge exists, it can't be forgotten. The genie can't be put back in the bottle. The playbook has been written. The path has been cleared. Future would-be authoritarians don't have to wonder if it's possible anymore. Trump proved it is. The only question left is whether America will learn from this failure and strengthen its defenses, or whether Trump was just the first of many who will exploit the same weaknesses he exposed. History is watching. The world is watching. And whatever happens next will determine not just Trump's legacy, but whether American democracy was truly the enduring achievement we believed it to be, or just another system that collapsed when finally tested by someone willing to destroy it. This is the story of the one man the system failed to stop. And it's a story that isn't over yet.